Welcome to the Art and Science of Complex Sales. This is a podcast where we explore how the best B2B sales leaders make the complex simple, drive relationships and revenue, and generally elevate the sales profession. In this podcast, we're bringing together sales experts, thought leaders, top account executives, buyers, industry insiders, all to share their experiences and best practices for navigating the complex sales cycle. So whether you're a seasoned sales professional, a sales leader, or just starting out, you're going to find practical insights and actionable advice that you can apply to your own sales journey. Plus, we have a bit of fun.
Hey there, everyone. I am absolutely thrilled today because we're being joined by Leslie Venetz. Leslie is a powerhouse in corporate sales training and go-to-market strategies. Leslie has cracked the code on what it takes to have meaningful conversations, and she's trying to redefine the landscape of prospect engagement. From navigating billion-dollar deals with Fortune 500 giants to helping startups scale rapidly, Leslie is all about turning transactional exchanges into authentic interactions. So let's get ready for some real insights into elevating your team's outbound game and breaking through the noise. Diving in with Leslie. Leslie, welcome to the show. How are you?
I am wonderful. Thank you so much for having me, Paul. I feel like your countdown was very Wayne's World coded. You know what I'm talking about?
Wayne's World. Yeah. Party on. Yes. Why was it Wayne's World, though?
Because that's exactly what they do. They're like 5, 4, 3.
Am I Garth or am I Wayne?
No, you're the weird camera guy with like the long
Oh, gosh. Yeah, that's probably accurate. That's probably, this is par for the course today. My son called me a floating whale today. So Wayne's World or floating whale, I don't know. We were talking about, my daughter is she's going to state, like she's a freshman and she made the state relay team for swimming and all these things. And we're just kind of chatting back and forth. And I was laughing at myself and I was calling myself like a narwhal or a walrus or something. And he's like, yeah, no, big floating whale. I'm like, oh, man.
Thank you.
So weird guy in Wayne's World or floating whale, one of those two.
Yeah, yes. Maybe we'll come up with something more complimentary as we go.
Nah, you could keep throwing insults at me. Actually, I think we'll have listens all day. I'm actually going to offer you a compliment, though, when we get started here, which is, I'm really excited, mainly because we got connected based on the Women Sales Experts Conference, and you're doing some amazing work there. I know 2 of our team members went out to it and just had an absolute just the compliments that came out of that were at the highest level. And that's such a cool group. How did you get involved in that?
Oh, it is such a cool group. I got invited by Lori Richardson, who took the group over from Jill Conrath, who is like the OG woman in sales. I mean, she's so smart, just a B2B sales icon. Lori invited me. I was saying before we started recording that it was one of those times where I showed up to the first live event after I had been invited, and you like submit an application, you have to go through board approval. It's a big deal. I'm looking around the table, and it was truly a moment of, oh, holy smokes, I've made it. This is the type of room, the type of sales professionals I have had aspired to be in circle with, and here I am, and I'm doing the work alongside them. So it's so special. I'm actually doing another event with Lori, not a women in sales event, just a sales event in April in nice. Arizona. And it's always such a treat to collaborate with her.
Oh, that's awesome. Well, congratulations. And it is a great group, and we're really excited to be a part of it and support it. And I know like our team members, Pam and Jen, they came back just cup thoroughly filled and overflowing, which was really cool. And so let's dive in, like that journey to getting to that point. How did you start in sales? And tell me a little bit about the background.
Yeah, I started the way I think most sales professionals start, which is thinking that sales was like a gross and icky profession. and then taking a sales job sort of for lack of other better options that actually paid enough money to buy things like groceries. And then I very quickly found out that what I thought sales was based on, like the movies and the TV shows, sort of the narrative, is not what makes salespeople professional. The fast talkers, the like manipulators, the con man that you see depicted on TV, those are the people that fail first in real sales jobs. And the folks that are extremely successful throughout their entire career are the ones that are genuinely curious, like get excited when they learn about other people and the problems and the challenges and the opportunities, that they are so keen and eager to help and to solve and to support. And honestly, Paul, I just had no idea that was what sales was about. So I'm grateful I stumbled into sales. I had said yes to a job with a, huge global like research business intelligence organization, with the thought that I would do that job until a better opportunity in the organization opened up. And I would say within 2 weeks, I was walking home from work and had a moment of, oh no, I'm like really good at this and I'm really enjoying it. I think I might be in sales now. So, almost 18 years later, here I am just utterly obsessed with the profession and so grateful that I stumbled into it.
I took, it's funny because I literally apologized to somebody. I was at a wedding and they were asking me what I did. And I had just gotten this sales job, my first software sales gig, right? And they asked me what I did. I'm like, well, I'm a sales development rep at a software company. I'm really thinking that I'm going to get into this. I'm going to go on and continue my career. I'm going to be a teacher. But for now. And I had the same realization. It took me a company later to have that realization. And it was, I'm so thankful for it because it is not the profession that it's so often made out to be. Do you have a particular definition? I don't always ask this. I used to always ask this, but do you have a particular definition of sales that like just jumps out at you that you love to use?
I don't. I mean, I think sales at its core is a profession that requires you to be like a proactive, problem-centric, trusted advisor, which was just a series of buzzwords. But like at the core, what sales professionals offer is a helping hand in making it easier for buyers to buy things they actually need and will get great benefit from.
For saying no at the beginning, you had a really good definition of sales.
All right.
I appreciate that, and you can even tell it shines through in how you operate, and even just how you're talking today. So, what area of the world are you functioning in sales today? Like, what do you do? How are you bringing that to market?
Yeah, I left corporate a little over 3 years ago.
Nice.
So it is. Thank you. So I spent 15 years in corporate America doing all of the jobs, right? Like doing the SDR, ISR job, doing the player coach roles, the leadership roles, all the way through to being that CRO. I use CRO in quotes because while I owned like marketing, sales, and CS, we were still like a 10-person company. So
yeah.
With the asterisk, but I had this amazing opportunity throughout my career to do I've made 250,000 cold calls myself. My teams that I have trained have made over 10 million. So I've been on the front line doing the work. And then I've also had the privilege of leading incredible teams and leading incredible strategies for tons of different types of products and sales cycles and ICPs. And honestly, I thought it was a weakness for so long that I hadn't niched down and, really just honed my expertise in one particular industry or in one particular type of product. And what I realized when I started doing the business I do now as a sort of like passion project side hustle is that depth and breadth of experience is my superpower. And really the past 3 years as a full-time founder, as a solopreneur founder, working directly with companies to enable their sales teams and to help create outbound sales strategies for them, being able to draw on so many different types of experiences and products and price points and sales cycles and ICPs it's just made the work I do so much more fun and so much more valuable.
And we got some similarities there. We'll talk offline because this is about you. This is not about me, but there is a lot of, I'm of the same ilk. And when you have that experience and you can find the patterns, you can start to find those patterns and understand. So you're on the front lines, you're helping people develop their outbound mechanisms. What are the main problems, like from the people on the front lines, what are the main things that they're facing today that are stopping them from success?
Yeah, the biggest gripes that I hear. And so I work with sales teams and I work with the leaders. And so I hear some of the gripes directly from the leaders. But generally where I support organizations is through like ICP development, value prop territory management, through to discovery calls. And so if we think about that sort of spectrum, 3 big things. One is data. Oh my gosh. Like I see so many reps who are willing to get out there and just smash the phones. Like they're willing to do the work. They are not the ones saying cold calling is dead or I don't like to cold call. But when they are given bad data and no tech to support, like enriching that data or being able to get on a dialer, it makes the work suck the soul right out of them.
So let's dive into that because excuse me, I just had a cough because I laughed. But when you suck the soul out of them, when you say soul suck, there is some serious issues.
Yeah.
What is soul sucking? Like, get down to the specifics.
Yeah.
Like, okay, so I don't have data. What are the issues?
What we know for sure is that sales is a really tough job, right? Like when you reach people, you're facing rejection, but before you reach people, you're facing a lot of like tacit rejection. And that if you make 100 cold calls, like I was just looking at Orem data, and good pickup rates are about 12%, right? So if you make 100 cold calls a day, that still means that you are getting 88 calls that go nowhere to get the 12 people that connect. So there's like, you sort of feel, or at least I certainly felt when I was in the cold call role, making those 250,000 cold calls, is that it's always a bit of an uphill battle. And we now are in a place with sales tech and data where you can buy your team tech to help them dial faster, to dial better, where you can buy data. You don't have to like do the old school pay 10 grand for a list and then hope 50% of the contacts, or even older school. This was before me, but I know plenty of people that were in sales when they literally opened a phone book and call, right? So we're in this incredible moment where we do have access to the best data we've ever had and the best tech we've ever had. And when reps are not enabled to do their work with that type of access, it is deeply, deeply frustrating to them. And that's like, I hear them voice those frustrations. And then those are the same reps that are looking for a new job in the not too distant future at a company where they can put in the work and get the results.
Yeah, I was at the beginning of a lot of that data work with a company I'd started back in 2007. We did sales as a service. So, and it was such a differentiator there then, right? To be able to really dive in, understand, back away from the buying list type thing. I mean, that's how we had to start. It was, oh, hey, I have a list of 100, or you go to a direct mail company or that. But the advancements in that are ridiculous. Like, what do you find in the people that are actually using tech well? Is Is it they're getting to the second updated data on the people that they want to call and verified phone numbers? And dive into that a little bit. What do you look for when you look at great data providers and what they're driving and helping people with?
I would say two things. One is it makes the outreach more successful, obviously, when you have better phone numbers and better emails and better physical addresses, then all of the outreach you're doing just has a higher probability of reaching the intended prospect. I would say one of my favorite uses of new age sales tech right now, two of them. I love sales tech. I did a post recently where I admitted that even though I get about half of my tech stack for free, I still spent over $10,000 on sales tech last year. I love sales tech. One is signals in general. When we talk about cold outreach, it's so cool that we can pull some of what we know works in B2C, like both know because of the data and also know because we as B2C consumers, like we are interacting with it, that we can pull some of that into B2B for the first time ever and figure out the right time to reach a specific person. And we can be really confident about the relevance of our messaging. I think that's incredible. And then I would say like adjacent to that is being able to use tools that help connect the dots so that it's not just signals, but we're not really sure exactly what the signal means or what it's telling us or how we can educate our buyer on what that signal might mean based on what else we know. The tech that's really, really helping sellers easily connect the dots. So they're saying, okay, I saw that you have a new CFO in the last year and that you also had a cybersecurity breach and that you also have seen a 10% decrease in your IT headcount. Okay, that tells me that your CFO put a lot of pressure on the team to reduce cost, which caused this negative thing, and you still aren't rehiring, which probably means it would be a great time for me as like an outsourced cybersecurity vendor to come in and offer a solution that could help without having to replace the FTE and that could, right? So being able to use the software to not just find the signals, but understand how the signals connect together and why that is meaningful in our conversations with prospects. It's very cool.
That is awesome. And are you finding that when you arm sales reps with that level of data and when they're diving in, their messaging and how they change their messaging, are you finding that it's one of the things that's really the difference between an impactful good rep and somebody that's average is the ability to take that information in and then set a messaging strategy around it and spend some time on it? Or are you finding that it's just, that regardless, you're going to find those signals, it's just a call and you make it happen?
I think it deeply depends on your contract value, how much you should pay attention to signals. I generally set the bar at like $50K. And if you have a $50K plus like annual contract value, you need to spend a lot of time looking at signals and connecting the dots and being really thoughtful about your outreach. But if you're on the other end and you have like a 5K super transactional product, doing that type of contact level personalization is probably not your best play, because at the end of the day, sales is still a numbers game. That doesn't mean you should go all the way in the other direction and just do like the spray and pray spam technique. Like that's not it. But I think there's something to be said to finding a balance where you take the time to use that same type of technology to understand industry trends and market trends and to understand what the persona generally cares about, because we know that a CHRO is going to care about much different things than like a director of learning and development, even though they're in the same business unit. So I would suggest using that deep understanding of trends and what is generally most important to that type of buyer persona to do hyper relevant outreach instead of feeling the pressure to do contact level personalization for every bit of cold outreach.
That's great. No, it's great. It's great advice. And you could tell that you're in a lot of that, helping people work with these ICPs and their tech and all of that. So data is number one. We're getting rid of that soul sucking, destructive lack of data. What is the second major thing that you're finding out there that people are struggling with?
I would say the second thing is understand, like territory management might be the umbrella that I put it in. So I think it's related to the idea of figuring out how to do relevant outreach at some level of scale. Mm-hmm. And folks still really, really struggle with understanding their ICP. It's an evergreen topic. It shouldn't still be so top of mind and so pressing in 2025. But the organizations I work with either say they have an ICP, but it's really just anybody that might potentially buy from them at any point from any reason. Mm-hmm. And that's not an ICP. Like that's just sort of like the qualified group of your TAM. Or they do have a better idea of who their ICP is, but it will sound like, we sell to IT professionals in one of these 5 industries. And that's still not giving you enough clarity on exactly who your ICP is that you can create outreach that would matter to all of them. Mm-hmm. And so I put it under the territory management umbrella because what I see makes a huge difference between orgs that are having a lot of success in their cold outreach and orgs that are really struggling is their ability to take a territory and then create subsegments of that territory. And so a sequence, an outreach sequence is only being sent to the VP of procurement at an organization that is headquartered in the Northeast with social proof from 2 other organizations in the Northeast that are all in the the food and beverage CPG industry that are all at, 3 billion to 6 billion in revenue. And that data should be readily available in your CRM if you are doing number 1 correctly. Okay. And I know for sure because I see it that folks feel a tremendous amount of frustration because it seems like everybody is ignoring their messaging, but their messaging is being ignored because it's ignorable. They're trying to talk to everybody. And so the result is that they are talking to nobody. And the answer is to go much deeper in your territory to create subsegments so that you can make sort of like micro campaigns that are highly relevant to the subsegments of your territory instead of trying to broad stroke your outreach to your entire ICP if you even have an ICP versus just like a TAM.
Yeah. So ICP, when you talk about that, you are diving into a ton of the data points that you have to gather. So you need all that really good data. But how do you deal with one of the things how do you deal with like the psychographic or the change initiatives of an ICP? For example, one of the key things that, I'm just going to go to Membrane. One of the things that we have found about who we target is we are extremely good at working with CEOs or VP of sales that have tried things before and then are committed to foundational change of their skill sets, training, as well as systems to be able to create a sustainable and long-lasting sales team. That brings in some psychographics and signals and all of those type of things. How do you recommend that type of tracking, or do you? Does that question make sense?
Yes, it does make sense, Paul. And I would guess, I don't know this about your business model, but I would guess if that is your strategy, like if that's your core prospect value set, that you are relying really, really heavily on referrals and a channel approach over cold outreach. Yeah.
We rely on both. Yeah. And then we do cold outreach becomes about 30% of what we do, but it has to be highly, highly focused and targeted based on signals and change and stuff in market, or we become very irrelevant.
Yeah. How are you finding those signals?
Well, we actually use a couple of platforms, software platforms.
Yeah.
Probably
or
very
like, let me ask
similar to the
that a
ones that
different way. Like, what would be if you saw a top of funnel signal that was an immediate, like, I need to put this person in a sequence and start reaching out to them today? What would that signal look like for Membrane?
For them, as we start to see questions around, well, number one, we have the partner strategy, questions around sales strategy and how they execute, questions around sustainable growth and stuff on ICP. And then we actually do a whole lot of research in terms of what people are liking, sharing, and those type of things on LinkedIn. Because if people are talking sales strategy, our platform is sales strategy and execution, and they start to ask questions about that, our platform is very good for that. If people are talking about, like, in contrast to people that are talking about like marketing driven campaigns or those type of things, we don't necessarily, that's not our bread
and butter. Yeah.
Our bread and butter. So is there ways that you've found to track that type of, like, within a CRM or outside the CRM, or do you track those type of signals, or they're not really psychographics, but they're
but they are signals or intent, or you know, we used to call them triggers, right? Just a few years ago, I tracked them all through Google Alerts.
Yeah, I did too for a long time. Yeah.
So like what I'm hearing you share is almost a combination of like 1 and 2, having this really, really clear understanding of what your ideal prospect looks like. And then taking that clear understanding of your ideal prospect and going to the data tools to figure out how you can find them at the right time and on the right channel to have that conversation that you're highly confident will be relevant to them. I don't track it in CRM.
Okay.
You know what I'm definitely not is a CRM architect. Like I've been very fortunate to have people that run CRMs for me throughout my career. And if I showed you what was going on inside of my own CRM right now, you would be like, Leslie, are you okay? And I would say, no, I'm not, Paul. But I am really lucky to have access to tools like ZoomInfo's Copilot. I'm testing a new one right now called Omni that's pulling some of those signals out. I used Common Room for a long time. I mean, I still use it sometimes, but it's hard as a solopreneur to get the full value. So, you know, part of the reason that I have like a $20,000 annual tech stack as a solopreneur is because I love testing where I can find the right signals that are most relevant to help me and my clients create the type of dialogue that you're creating with your clients in such a like meaningful, relevant, valuable way.
It's a great answer, because I think it's an interesting thing in this day. There's so many options that you do need to search. Like I know what we're really good at and where we fit in that, but there's so many options, and being able to dive in on that data side, and even the different providers do things different ways and show different types of stuff and different relational capabilities. It's a huge for the You're doing amazing work for these organizations that need to get in there and sort that out, because it is a huge issue. It's a problem that they're having, and they do have people feeling like they're doing soul sucking work when it doesn't need to be.
Yeah. And, you know, I would say for as much as we are talking about this in the context of tech, and like, don't get me wrong, folks, enabling your team with the right tech is so important. But if you do not have your strategy figured out first, you will never be able to purchase the right tech and roll out the right tech to enable your reps in the right way. So please do not listen to this conversation and then go buy a bunch of new tech. Like, get your strategy tight, get your ICP dialed in. And then once you have that clarity and those strong foundations and those strong processes, then you can find the tech that enables your processes that support your strategy.
Amen. I did this talk a while back called the technology confusion gap. And there's this huge gap that we have between the ability to execute effectively with the massive gain in technology that's happened, right? You can only ingest so much at any given time.
Yep.
And the strategy of somebody having, so what has been happening a lot is you see this, and I'm a tech vendor, right? You see this massive spend increase in tech across everything, but it's a bunch of point solutions that don't match strategy whatsoever. So you're preach that hot and heavy across everything, because that strategy is so critical. And so let's dive into that. So what does you talked about ICP, we talked about tech. Yeah. What else does this good outbound strategy entail that people should be looking at?
So my third thing is hosting an exceptional discovery meeting or introductory meeting, and where folks fall flat on that, and why I think this is one of the biggest issues in outbound is they struggle to actively listen and then use those active listening skills to engage in an actual conversation that is a discovery, that is a needs analysis conversation. And too often, those meetings are used to tell, to sell, to hard qualify. And folks, you need to qualify on your discovery meetings. I get that. But I see people really, really struggle with using discovery meetings to like go through a series of boxes and check the boxes, which is a really gross feeling for the prospect on the other side of the call. It feels like they're being interrogated. And the real gap I see is that we are not enabling and empowering our sales reps to spend the time to just listen to understand instead of to respond, so that when we have then earned the right to sell, we have listened enough and we understand enough that we have something relevant to say.
I high five.
Are you tearing up, Paul?
I'm tearing up. I'm tearing up a little bit. I'm getting a little bit. I couldn't agree more. And one of the things that's really interesting about that, and I've talked about this in a couple others, but it's fascinating when we highlight efficiency over effectiveness in the assembly line nature of outbound. What it has become is that you lose a lot of that, but you lose a lot of being able to set the time and understand. But what I've noticed is we have a generation of salespeople that have come up through the SDR that don't know how necessarily to sell. Yeah. They know how to talk. They know how to pitch. They know how to ask a couple of core questions. But that is, I think, the most important thing is in that initial discovery is so important in being able to, I call sales service leadership and wayfinding. How do I lead? How do I serve? And how do I figure out a way to do it? And it's so important. So I couldn't agree with you more. I think just to summarize real quick, get the right data, figure out a territory plan, right? Ensure that it's in the right tech and that you're empowering and enable your team to go after that. Make sure you have a strategy around it, and then train is what I'm hearing on the ability to hold an effective conversation and the ability to uncover and discover the things that we love so much about sales. Yeah. You're dead on. I got nothing to add.
Mic drop.
Mic drop. Maybe I did already just add a bunch. I'll get a bunch of comments on this episode.
No,
Paul, you said you didn't have anything to add. You just talked to a whole crap load.
It's a perfect summary. I think like all of those things are so important. And I come back to the idea again and again of earning the right. Mm-hmm. And if anybody follows me on LinkedIn, you've certainly heard me talk about this concept before, but it is present at every point in our interactions with buyers. Like, we write an email, we should be asking ourselves, have I earned the right to even ask for their attention? Like, what have I included in this email that I've earned the right to even put it in their inbox and ask for their attention? And then it goes through all of the outreach to the discovery meeting. Like, how have I researched? How have I prepared for this discovery meeting to come with a point of view? How am I showing up on this call in a way that earns the right to their time and to their consideration? And that is one of the reasons I'm so passionate about thinking of the discovery meeting or of that introductory meeting as the final step in top of funnel, because that is the last opportunity you have to earn the right to ask them to consider buying from you before you move into that buying process.
Well, that is it's fantastic advice. And for anybody that's listening, just connect with Leslie. Just make sure you're doing that. How do they do that, by the way? How do they get in touch with you? And if they like what they're hearing?
Find me on LinkedIn. I posted on LinkedIn every single day for over 1,500 days. So I've quite a repository of information. Yes. And I am trying to break through my mental barrier on LinkedIn and post more LinkedIn video content. But really, if you want the video content and my more unhinged takes, follow me on TikTok at Sales Tips Talk.
Sales Tips Talk.
That's right. I was
Sales
the
Tips
first
Talk.
B2B sales tips creator on TikTok.
Here we go. I haven't been, but I'm becoming more and more pulled into the idea that I'm eventually going to get on TikTok.
I love it. I love it. It is it's a bit addicting. So buyer beware on that one. But either way, you can find me for videos on TikTok. You can find me for my text content on LinkedIn. And I look forward to having you on either platform.
All right. Well, thank you so much, Leslie. It's been a blessing to have you on. I truly appreciate it. Everybody, please go connect, follow, do all those things with Leslie. And also make sure that you're liking, sharing, commenting on this episode. Let's get this good news out to more and more people and make sure that they're hearing things that they can be doing to build that top of funnel and that outbound in a really good way. So thank you. I appreciate it.
Thanks so much for having me. And thank you again for your support of the Women Sales Experts Group.
Absolutely. We're in that one to win it. It's going to be great. We're going to keep that relationship as long as we can and make sure that we're providing a ton of value to you. So anyways, with that, we're going to sign off for today. The Art and Science of Complex Sales. Thank you so much. Keep shining bright and have an amazing, amazing day. We'll see you.
Hey, everybody. Thank you. Thank you for listening to this episode of The Art and Science of Complex Sales. I hope today's conversation provided you with valuable insights and practical ideas to help you and your team elevate the profession and succeed in today's complex world. This podcast is brought to you by Membrane.com. Membrane is the B2B growth platform for CEOs, sales leaders, and sales executives who are committed to sustainable growth and change. If you enjoyed this episode, do us a favor, like, subscribe, share it with your network. Your support really helps us bring more valuable insights from the best in the business straight to you. Also, check us out at Membrane.com. We're more than a technology. Membrane equips your teams with the expert coaches and trainers, amazing sales methodologies, process, people, and tools to continually improve and coach results. More than a CRM. It's a network, and it's designed to help your team execute with confidence, smash goals, and overall up your sales game. So we'll see you next time for another episode of The Art and Science of Complex Sales. And until then, as always, keep shining bright.